What's up, everybody? P691000 here, and today I want to do something kind of fun. We're going to do another creepy collection of urban legends. These are 5 urban legends from around the United States that I think you guys will enjoy. I found them pretty interesting, so let's get into it. For more than 300 years, people have looked up into the Royal Mountains of California to see tall, dark figures staring back at them, only to watch them disappear moments later. The Dark Watchers, as they're called, appear between late afternoon and twilight to visitors to the Royal Santa Lucia Mountains. Witnesses from Native Americans to American writers have reported seeing the figures lingering on the mountaintops, seemingly silently watching those below. The Santa Lucia Mountains stretch along the California coast. In the early days of the state, they presented a challenge to the Spanish explorers making their way to the ocean. As these explorers made their way up the mountains in the 1700s, they reported seeing the dark figures and named them Los Vigilantes Oscuros, literally, the Dark Watchers. Later, as American settlers made their way over the mountains, they too reported the feeling of being watched from above. What have come to be known as the Dark Watchers are typically said to be very tall humanoid entities, ranging in height from 7 feet tall all the way up to 15 feet tall. Dressed in all black and wearing flowing cloaks and wide-brimmed hats, with many sightings also mentioning some sort of stick or staves being in their hands. Their facial features are not typically seen, and they are almost always silent, enigmatic figures, usually seen at a distance upon ridges silhouetted against the darkened twilight sky. Always at around dusk or dawn, quietly looking over and surveying their domain, with unknown purpose and often vanishing in the blink of an eye, especially if one attempts to get close to them. Legend says they are a group of migratory entities that stalk travelers along the mountain range, endowed with exceptional hearing and impeccable eyesight. They prefer, paranormal researchers like Michael Sheen with Beyond Science say, to reveal themselves only to travelers while carrying simple possessions like hats and walking sticks instead of high-tech equipment. During the early years of Bucksport, Maine, its founder, Colonel Jonathan Buck, had a witch executed, as they did in those days. Before she died at the bad end of a hangman's noose, she cursed Buck to always bear the mark of that deed. And that mark is apparently a water stain in the shape of a pointed stocking that appeared on a monument honoring him 75 years after his death. Variations on the story liven up the tale. In one version, instead of hanging her, he has her burned, and her leg falls off and rolls out of the fire at Buck's feet. In another, she wasn't a witch at all, just unfortunate enough to be pregnant with his child in a socially unacceptable situation for the time. The witch execution was an easy fix to his inconvenient problem. And yet another version, her already born and deformed son grabs the leg when it falls and runs away with the relic, never to be seen again. Whatever the story, what Bucksport is left with these days is a pointy, leg-shaped stain on an obelisk of granite in a hilltop graveyard on Main Street, dedicated to the founder of the town. It hangs right below his name like a stocking on a fireplace. A nearby sign explains the legend and the strange marking. The legend of the Nain Rouge is said to go back to 1701, at the very founding of Detroit. The shortened and often repeated version of the tale states that the founder of Detroit was attacked by the feared Red Dwarf, who then cursed the city. Cadillac, the founder of Detroit, was warned by a sorceress before he founded the city. She warned him to appease and not to offend the Nain Rouge. Cadillac did eventually meet the Nain Rouge, which he struck with his cane, offending the Red Dwarf, and the demon of the Strait cursed Cadillac and the city of Detroit. The legend of the Red Dwarf has caught on, now appearing on Nain Rouge Red by Woodbury Wine. The folktale has persisted to be a part of Detroit culture, with Nain said to appear before disaster strikes. According to legend, Nain appeared right before 1763's Battle of Bloody Run, where around 60 British soldiers were killed in a thwarted attack against Chief Pontiac. The Nain was also said to have appeared before the infamous 1805 fire, which nearly destroyed the entire city. Some say the dwarf could be seen before the 12th Street riot in 1967, and as recently as 1976 it was reported that 2 DTE workers spotted what they thought was a child climbing a utility pole before a particularly brutal snowstorm crippled the city, possibly the most recent Nain sighting. But it wasn't until the Nain Rouge Parade began in 2010 that the Red Dwarf became more of a household name. Last year, Caliber Comics published Nain Rouge, the Red Legend, a graphic novel depiction of the tale. This year, Woodbury Wine is distributing Nain Rouge Red Wine in Michigan, just in time for the parade. To their surprise, hundreds of people showed up the first year of the parade, with the event culminating in a burning of effigy of the Nain. The next year, even more people showed up, and in 2015 it was reported that some 5,000 people had attended the parade. Thumbing a ride was once commonplace, but not so much anymore. Once you hear about the Hitchhiker of Black Horse Lake, you may never dream of giving a stranger a ride again. Is there something to this legend that haunts a highway in Montana? Or did someone's imagination run wild? Black Horse Lake is just a few miles north of Great Falls in Cascade County in north-central Montana. This is a major crossroads where several highways come together, including Interstate 15 and U.S. Highway 87. Though Montana has many spectacular waterways, Black Horse Lake isn't one of them. In fact, it's dry for most of the year, and even after an abundant rainstorm, in the spring and summer it's still a small lake. It reaches just 3 square miles and at its fullest. However, an unsettling legend looms over the area. Whether the lake bed has water or not, the Hitchhiker of Black Horse Lake is still searching for a ride. Reports of encounters with this mysterious phantom hitchhiker go back many years. Several generations of people who live in the Great Falls area may have heard the stories from an early age. The various accounts almost always describe the Hitchhiker of Black Horse Lake as a Native American man with long hair. He wears either a denim jacket or overalls and stands on the side of the state highway signaling for a ride. However, just as the driver passes, the hitchhiker suddenly lurches in front of the car. With a terrifying thud, he makes contact with the front of the vehicle. When the driver pulls over to rush to the hitchhiker's aid, they find that no one is there. The hitchhiker of Black Horse Lake has vanished, and just as mysteriously, the car seems to have no damage. According to the story, the hitchhiker might be the ghost of a man killed while hitchhiking. So, in a sense, he continues to haunt this particular stretch of highway, and presumably always will. La Mala Ora is said to be a wicked spirit or an evil demon that wanders the lonely country roads after midnight and terrorizes those who travel alone in New Mexico. It usually lurks in the darkness at a crossroads, waiting for an unwary traveler to cross its path. According to some, it is more feared than the devil. It first appears as large, black, lumpy, constantly moving and changing shape. It can also change size rather rapidly, growing larger and smaller. They say it looks like a ghostly black shroud or a large black cotton ball. Anyone who is unfortunate enough to set eyes on this demon runs the risk of being driven insane. It tries to hypnotize and paralyze anyone who happens to encounter it at night. When it attacks, it suddenly rushes toward the unwary and envelops them in fear and suffocates them. The following morning, the poor wretch is found dead by the side of the road. At other times, it transforms into a wicked woman, a female personification of evil. She appears wearing black clothing, her hair long and unkempt. She is like a spirit or wind floating along without touching the ground with her feet. People in New Mexico say that she seldom appears in human form, but when she does, it is considered to be a death omen. If you encountered her at the crossroads, it usually means you, or someone you know, is going to die. When pressed for more information about this demon, the people of New Mexico will often refuse to talk about it. However, there is one story that is famous. In one story, there was a woman whose husband was away on business. One night, she decided to go stay with her friend in Santa Fe. It was just after midnight when she left her house and drove down the lonely, deserted highway. After a while, she approached a small crossroads when suddenly a dark shape appeared in front of her car. The woman screamed in fright and slammed on the brakes, screeching to a halt. When she looked up again, the dark shape had disappeared for a second, and the woman breathed a sigh of relief. Then she turned to her right and saw something that almost gave her a heart attack. Right beside her window, looking in at her, was a hideous old lady. She had the twisted face of a demon, glowing red eyes, and short, pointed teeth. The demonic lady began clawing at the window, trying to break the glass. Terrified, the woman put down her foot on the accelerator and the car took off down the road. For a few terrible moments, the demonic lady ran alongside the car, still clawing at the window. Then the car sped up, and she fell behind. The woman looked in her rearview mirror. The last thing she saw was the demon growing taller and taller until it was as large as a tree. When the woman reached her friend's house, she ran inside and locked the door behind her. The woman explained what she had seen at the crossroads, and her friend gasped in horror. "It must have been La Mala Ora," said her friend, "the evil one. They say she only appears at the crossroads when someone is about to die." The woman was overcome by a feeling of dread and impending doom. She couldn't sleep a wink that night. She waited until morning, then drove home. She made sure not to drive by the crossroads again, fearing the demonic lady would appear once more. When the woman reached home, she found a police car waiting for her in the driveway. The officers approached her and asked for her name, and broke the terrible news to her. Her husband had been mugged on the way back to his hotel the night before. He had been shot and killed. It all happened just after midnight. What's up, everybody? P691,000 back here. I hope you liked those stories as much as I liked reading them to you. Those were fascinating urban legends from around the United States. And I thought they were interesting, especially the last one. The last one was very interesting. They were all interesting, but that last one was definitely creepy. I know some of you have probably noticed I have been uploading a lot more frequently. What I'm trying to do is what I should have done on this channel years ago. I'm trying to get a schedule down, so you guys can expect a video pretty much every weekend, either Saturday or Sunday. Most likely on a Sunday the video will drop. But I hope you guys are enjoying the frequent uploads. I hope you guys like this video, and hopefully there'll be many more videos to come. So peace, love. I love you all. Have a great day.